Topic 4 this week on the big board. We said the spa's around the corner. Starts on Thursday with the Schuylerville Stakes for the 2-year-old fillies. Opening day Thursday, 4-day racing week at the Spa. They get a week head start on Del Mar, which pushed back their opening week till next week. So it's really going to be spotlight time at Saratoga, Jeff. They bet $65 million on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday cards last year. With no Del Mar faced up against Saratoga, I think we could be looking at upwards of $80 million bet on those 3 days at Saratoga. We are set for a big-time start at the Spa.
I've already handicapped the first 2 days. I can't wait to get going. And checked all the workouts on xbtv.com. We've got our clockers and video people there filming all the workouts. So certainly take advantage of that. You're going to have to play a lot of maiden races there, a lot of grass races. You're going to have that extra information at your fingertips. And we are there at XBTV. So looking forward to having that. And the same thing for Del Mar. We'll have our crew at Del Mar as well a week later. So if you're handicapping seriously, and who won't be at Saratoga and Del Mar, you better check out the information where we have it for Express Bet members, because it could make the difference between a major score and a thrown away ticket. But the opening day stake is good. 2-year-old fillies, Schuylerville, grade 3, 6 furlongs, 8 out of the 9 fillies that entered in the race are coming off maiden wins. So it's challenging, but it's the kind of challenge we'd like to take up.
And they come from 5 different venues, from small to large, and different surfaces. You know, like how will the horses from Woodbine's Tapeta that excelled in the debut handle the dirt and the difference in competition? Horses from Presque Isle Downs, Kentucky. You've got horses from all over matching up in that Schuylerville. You know, it's always fun to talk 2-year-olds at Saratoga, right? I mean, it's like the lifeblood. You know, we're rolling on to next year already in the future. But this Schuylerville Stakes, I was looking at the winners of this race historically. You've got to go back to Oshado in 2003 until one of these 2-year-old fillies really turned out to be a star. So they are the good early summer 2-year-olds. When we get to the end of the year, the end of the meet, beyond the Schuylerville, when we get into late August and into September, that's when you're going to see the creme de la creme, I think, of the 2-year-olds at Saratoga, obviously, as the meet builds to a crescendo at the end of the season. But the Schuylerville, with a field of 9, includes 3 from trainer Mark Cassie, Jeff. His son Norm won this race last year. So Mark's thinking, you know, we got to keep this thing in the family. We're going to run 33% of the field. And one of the horses that he's running is one called Me and My Shadow, who was a debut winner pretty impressively. She's a slightly built filly. She kind of looks like a foal who kind of grew up in Bambi. Let's take a look at her win last time out up at Woodbine.
Over on the inside, Me and My Shadow being henpecked the entire way. On the outer goes Born Dapper. They turn 2 in front of Cairo Consort. This has been a real battle. And on the outside, Born Dapper really pushing again, but it's still Me and My Shadow in front. Fast and Sexy is there with Cairo Consort. Me and My Shadow breaking away now. And inside the final 16th is going to win Me and My Shadow, drawing off to a pretty impressive final 16th. Wins by 3.5 lengths. Second, Born Dapper. Third, Cairo Consort. And fourth, Fast and Sexy. 57-18.
So as we continue our Saratoga summer setup, Jeff, with that Schuylerville Stakes, Cassie's just 7 for 79 the last 2 years at Saratoga since 2020, over 2020 and 2021. 7 for 79. I saw some of the racing press, you know, talking to him about running 3 in this race. He says it's hard to win at Saratoga. You know, he's got a Hall of Fame career. He's got the plaques in Canada and in the U.S., but there are no gimmies at Saratoga when a guy like Cassie goes 7 for 79 over 2 years, and he knows the numbers. He talked about, you know, how much it is a struggle. That tells you how deep the waters are.
It's tough for sure. And this filly, we mentioned Me and My Shadow, 57 flat, 78 buyer speed figure, last 16th and 5 and 3. I mean, this is a very, very good filly by Violence. And I did read that story, the quotes from Mark Cassie, and the one quote that I wanted to see was, yes, we don't know about the switch from all weather to dirt, but she really has trained on the dirt very, very well. I expected her to run just as well. So that's basically all I want to hear. Now, It doesn't make her a winner, because Wayne's filly, Summer of Promise, we mentioned her, very impressive debut at Churchill. She goes from the rail to the outside, which is going to be fine, just in case she doesn't break all that sharp. She can sit, stalk, and then go on with her. And the rail filly in this race, she's one to watch for down the road. Her name is Just Cindy. She's from the first crop of Justify. I was able to watch her maiden win at Churchill first time out. And what a beautiful mover she is. I mean, she barely picks her feet up off the ground. She's quick action, but with a nice stride. Looks a lot like Justify. And I really do think Just Cindy among this group has the best chance to go on. But she drew the rail in this race, so who knows what that dirt in her face is going to affect her. I'm not sure it'll bother that much. I'm really interested. I think there are at least 3 really good fillies in this race, maybe more than that. But Just Cindy, to me, obviously Me and My Shadow, and then Wayne's filly on the outside, Summer Promise. I think they're all going to run well in what looks to be a stronger than average Schuylerville field for me, anyway. Because a lot of times you mentioned you get these real fast fillies in there,
Right.
but you know they're not going to go anywhere eventually. But this group, I think, is pretty good. Pretty good field.
Lucas won this race 6 times, all the way back with Sakawista, way back in the early to mid 80s. And he's got 6 victories, looking for 7. And she was a filly, Summer Promise, for Lucas, who was part of our Stars of Tomorrow segment a couple weeks ago. We'll have our Stars of Tomorrow segment for this week coming up in just a moment. But before, Jeff, let's talk about Saratoga and handicapping Saratoga. You know, we talked about the main event on Thursday. There's also the first race since the return of the new chute, something old, something new, the chute at Saratoga for 1 mile races. It'll begin on the clubhouse turn, have a dog leg left-hand turn, similar to what you see at Ellis Park, if you've seen that configuration over the years. The first chute race, really, that we're going to get a chance to see how it impacts racing will be in the 7th race on opening day. It's the Wilton Stakes, named for the neighboring town just across the interstate there from Saratoga. The Wilton Stakes is a mile on the dirt, main track race. They've got a field of 9 in there. Jeff, I've read a lot of consternation about how the outside posts are going to be totally screwed in this race at Saratoga starting on the turn. I just asked my handicapping brethren this. How many times have you seen the 10, 11, 12 saddle towel in a dirt race lately? I mean, there's not going to be that many wide draws, you know? Right, I mean, like, how many horses are really going to be compromised by a really wide draw? You know, I mean, we've got 9 in this race, pre-scratches for the Wilton Stakes, but it's not like we're lining up 12, 13, 14 on the dirt, and horses are literally going to be starting out, out by the Mexican Connection restaurant. I actually ate there a couple weeks ago when I was up in Saratoga. The Mexican Connection is right across the street from the new Wilson chute. You could probably, sit on the patio and have a margarita and watch the start of a 1-turn or 2-turn mile race there. But I think it's a lot about nothing. I mean, is it going to be tough for some horses? Yeah, probably. And if you're down on the rail with a tight elbow start, you don't want to get, sawed off. Maybe a great post position, 3-4, something like that, just off the pine. But inside's always good. It never hurts to be on the inside to the outside. And, look, it's another quiver in the bag these races, but I don't think it's a major point to the meet.
I'll tell you, I think the horsemen might like it, because in the past, if they had a 2-turn horse, a horse that didn't want to sprint and they didn't want to sprint them, or maybe it had a couple of sprints and they wanted to stretch them out, the only option would be to run them on the grass. So now you run them on the grass, and you don't know if he runs well because he wanted to go 2 turns or he liked the grass. And so you didn't know. But here is kind of a compromise where, okay, maybe I don't want to sprint him. Maybe he's not quick enough. I don't really want to run him on grass. I don't think he's a grass horse. I can run him in this mile race and maybe educate him a little bit. If you're outside, drop over, get some dirt, make a run and see what you got. Or if you're a speed horse, maybe you get loose. So I think the horsemen, especially with the 2-year-olds and the maidens, I think they're going to like it. I think it'll be well supported. And then it's up to us to watch the races and see what works and see where you have to be and how you have to position your horse. So I'm kind of looking forward to going to school a little bit. It's not a 1-turn mile, it's not a 2-turn mile. It's just a Wilson mile, I guess. I don't know.
You're telling me we're going to have to dust off the lime green saddle towels? The 12s are coming out to play. Maybe we'll see. Handicapping Saratoga is always a challenge because it's a bit of a melting pot. Yes, it's the star attraction on the NYRA circuit, but it also lures horses from all over the country. And once upon a time, the horses who came up from Kentucky just got it handed to them there. The Kentucky horses rarely were competitive. They were overbet off of their form at Keeneland and Churchill. But the Keeneland, Churchill, and even Ellis Park game has really risen with the historical racing and the slots money and the purse money. The last 2 or 3, 4 years, the racing in Kentucky is significantly better than it had been in prior years on the day-to-day, everyday level. And we've seen that play out at Saratoga because horses coming out of starts at Churchill Downs the last 2 summers at Saratoga have a 17% win rate. Horses coming out of races at Belmont, a 13% win rate.
Wow.
That was not the case 4 or 5 years ago. I promise you that. You saw a lot of like 1 for 20s, the Ian Wilkes and Kenny McPeaks and people like that really struggled when they had horses sent up to Saratoga. That has not been the case in recent years. And 2 of the big reasons why, Brad Cox and Steve Asmussen, both of those guys have 28% win rates on the dirt at Saratoga the last 2 years. Brad Cox, 28%, Steve Asmussen, 28%. They bring up fast dirt horses from Kentucky, and they are not only very competitive, they're actually powerful with that 28% win rate on the dirt. So the Kentucky horses, the Churchill horses now up at Saratoga, Jeff, even if it is a bit of a horse for a course track, it's not Belmont, it's not Aqueduct, it's definitely a third surface in NYRA. Some horses like it more than others, but they're just not holding a class card edge that like they used to.
No question about that. I'm going to get a lot of grass racing there for sure. I want to, again, toot the horn of XBTV because we do videotape a lot of grass workouts. Mm-hmm. And I remember McCulloch working very well on grass prior to her debut last year as a 2-year-old filly. We caught some of her works and we were able to cash in on her first time out. It's not a question of how fast they go because in most of these fillies, especially in the Chad Brown barn, the 2-year-olds, they're not asked for speed. It's the way they do it. You can see who's got the strength and who's got the ability to do it. So watch those workouts for the grass races. And as far as biases, occasionally that inside draw is very favorable at Saratoga. Inside speed can be good, but sometimes, especially after a rainstorm, it can be a little dead down there. So again, watch the track, watch the races early in the card. Biases aren't always there, but if they're one that it seems to be pretty obvious, go with it. Play the card, play the track. So these are things that you have to pay attention to, and then doesn't hurt to be pretty lucky too. You got to have some of that because it's tough. You can have the best horse and lose 4 out of 5 races at Saratoga. Sometimes we know that feeling.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will guarantee you: if you like a horse, you're probably going to get your price. I mean, it may not be,
Mother Nature and Saratoga kind of have a little bit of adversarial relationship some summers, It's where the humidity hits late in the day up there, and the downpour thunderstorm is almost the hallmark of Saratoga racing. And so that 4 or 5 o'clock downpour can really change the back half of a card. So as you handicap ahead, my advice to you is if you have a sequence, like you like the early pick 5 one day, make sure you get down. Like attack the early races because later in the day, the weather starts to get a little iffy. We could be looking at surface changes or sloppy track versus a fast track earlier in the day. You're usually safer weather-wise at Saratoga, the front half of the card than the back. So as you're handicapping a 10-race card and you kind of like the early pick 5 and you kind of like the late pick 5, make sure you get everything you want out of that early pick 5. And if the late pick 5 stays together, consider it a bonus and you're ready to adapt and play. But a lot of days you might be washed out of those late day plays at Saratoga, just the way that those downpours and thunderstorms are so prevalent. Let's go to our.
Don't forget to play rolling doubles either, because you only have 30 minutes to worry about after that. Don't have to worry about what kind of weather you got 2 hours and down.
That's right. Play coastal invest.
Rolling doubles, they can be